Hey guys, it's Eliza from Eliza Tall and Play 99, and today we are going to be talking about the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture palette. Anastasia is a really well-known beauty company. They have eyeshadows, they have highlighters, they have tons of stuff, and they have one palette in particular, the Modern Renaissance palette, that's really popular, and this palette came out as a counterpart to that, so it's kind of like the opposite of those shades, and there have been a lot of negative reviews on this. There have been some good reviews too, but a lot of negative reviews saying that this is unpowdered, that it's unblendable, that it's unusable. So today I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to tell you whether or not these shadows are really bad quality, or if there's something that is usable and the market is just not responding well to them, or maybe they're actually good and people are just being over dramatic. So we're just going to break that down step by step. I'm going to swatch these and let's just get into the video. Before we get started, I want to remind you to give this video a thumbs up and also subscribe if you're interested in seeing more videos like this, and let's just get started. We are going to be swatching these from right to left. So the first shade is Cube, and I've used Cube on my inner corner today as a highlight. It's a very pretty white duochrome, so it shifts from white to pink. So honestly, it's kind of subtle. It's not super shiny. I'm sure if you used a makeup fixing mist or some Mehron mixing liquid, you can make it really pop, but it's not super pigmented. Next we have Dawn, which is what I used as my transition color today. Destiny is a nice forest green. Up next is Adorn, and it's a beautiful bronze shimmer. It's really gorgeous. This is All Star. It's a lovely maroon. Here are the first 5 colors, and they swatch really beautifully. I do want to mention that I am swatching these on bare skin. I'm not using a primer. And I don't tend to use an eyeshadow primer per se. I like to use foundation or concealer to make my shadow stick on my lids. It's just a personal preference of mine. Up next, we have a nice taupe, which is the color Mercury. Then we have Access, which is a darkened teal, like a blackened teal. It's really lovely. Following Access, we have Roxy, which is a peach color. That also makes for a nice transition shade, and I did use that on my eyes today. Then we have Electric, which is a really unique gold color. Then we have Fudge, which is a very true to its name color. It's a nice warm brown, very chocolatey. Makes me want to go downstairs and get some chocolate and eat it all, because I love chocolate and I could do that right now, honestly. And we have 4 more to go. New Wave is a orangey color that is a little bit yellow. So it's a very interesting color, not a color you see often. Then we have Untamed, which is like a darker version of Destiny. Out of all of the shades in here, I think the shade Edge is the most unique. It's this really cool, almost putrid yellow. Lastly, we have an Aubergine Rowdy, which is on the blacker side of the eggplant spectrum. The way people describe shades, including myself, is just ridiculous sometimes. You all saw how beautifully those swatched, but the problem with these, or at least my problem with these, is that they are so powdery. And I don't even mind the fact that they're so powdery. It's just that they, like, the shadow gets everywhere and mixes in. Like, I have yellow in that white shade, and it makes everything kind of muddy. So that's my main issue with it. It gets the palette dirty. I don't really mind so much the shadows themselves are kind of powdery. It's just that it gets everywhere. When you hit the brush to the pan, you immediately notice a ton of kickback. And if you have this palette, or if you're going to get this palette, my recommendation to you is to immediately tap all that kickback off of your brush, because you do not want excess shadow on your brush, because that will make these shades so hard to blend. The first look I did with this palette was a really great cut crease, but I had such a hard time blending everything out because I wasn't kicking off the brush enough. I was doing it some, but I still wanted all that pigment to be there, so I was laying down the pigment and then taking a brush and hoping to blend it out, but that just didn't, it doesn't work with these shadows. That works with some shadows, but it doesn't work with these shadows in particular. So with these, less is definitely more. And this palette looks like it's at least a month and a half old, and I opened it up yesterday. I did a beautiful cut crease with it when I first got it, and when I first got it, I was like, this is crap. I hate this. It's awful. But then I did another look today before I was going to review this palette, and it's really grown on me. I looked up a bunch of stuff about this palette, and apparently the owner of Anastasia Beverly Hills, or I think the owner's daughter, was saying that you really need to tap your brush off, make sure there's not a whole lot of color on your brush to use this effectively. So that's what I did, and I have a much better result. It's a nice smoky eye, and I used a lot of the colors in here. I think most of the colors, and I had a little bit of trouble with the greens yesterday when I did my cut crease. They did not blend well, and honestly, they don't blend well, period. But I used them as a liner today, and I think that's a really great use for these shadows. I also think you could do a lovely smoky eye with these greens if you really had the time for it, but I do think that would be awfully time consuming. So who is this palette for? This palette doesn't strike me as something that is user-friendly. I don't think I would recommend it to a novice. Like, I wouldn't go to my friend who knows not a lot about makeup and be like, here, buy this palette, it's amazing, you need it in your life. This is not something that's for someone who doesn't know how to blend, for someone who doesn't know a lot about makeup. If you're an amateur like me, you might love it, you might hate it. It just depends on your formula preference. So you might hate powdery shadows, and if you do hate powdery shadows, this is not for you. But if you like these colors, like me, I really like these grungy, kind of putrid, dead looking colors. I think they're really cool. You might love it. You might love it. I kind of like it. It's really growing on me. Yesterday I hated it, but now it really is growing on me. I might end up keeping it because I was thinking about returning it yesterday when I did my cut crease look, because it just took so long to blend and ain't nobody got time for that. But you really do need to tap the excess off of your brush. For professionals, I think you might get a lot of use out of this because there are such unusual colors in here, and there's not a lot of palettes out there that have these colors. So if you're doing like editorial makeup, I think this might be a fantastic option, especially if you're someone who's really great at blending. I struggle with blending. I don't have any patience, so a lot of times I just like to stick with my eyeshadows that are really super easy to blend. In fact, my formula preference would be something that's almost wet and slippy, like the Juvia's Place shadows that are really easy to blend out, that you can lie down and then blend rather than go in with a little bit of color and then build it up. That is kind of like this palette. You need a little bit and then you build it up. So it's not my shadow preference per se, but I do really like the colors, and because the colors are so unique, I might keep this. Does this palette get my stamp of approval? It is almost amazing to me that Anastasia Beverly Hills got so far along with this palette, that this palette went through like levels of approval, that this palette was reformulated over and over again, and they came out with this, and I do really like the colors and I kind of like it, but because it's so powdery, that's just gonna put off a giant group of the market. So that really doesn't make sense to me. I feel like this is almost a first draft of the palette. It's just kind of amazing that this is the final product. I mean, for Anastasia Beverly Hills, from any other company, I'd be like, this is pretty good, but because it's from a company that's so renowned for their eyeshadow formulas, especially for their modern Renaissance palette, it's just a little bit amazing to me that this is their final product. With that said, I kind of like it, and I hope you guys can take from this video a lot of information on whether or not to get this palette. I hope you found it helpful and that you learned a little something along the way, and if you did, please consider subscribing down below and also giving this video a thumbs up while you are at it. And don't forget to leave a comment down below concerning this palette. Would you get it? Would you not? Do you hate it? If you have it? And I will see you all later. Bye.